On today's podcast, I'm super excited to take you into the room at the Thermostat Cultures live event. And what you're about to hear is the dialogue I had with my good friends, Kevin Clayton, Vice President and Head of Social Impact and Equity for the Cleveland Cavaliers, Ken Boyer, EY's Inclusiveness Recruiting Leader for the Americas, author and speaker Chris Singleton, researcher Tamara Miles chime in. So this is a powerful dialogue about the state of leading in the world today. Leading in the world today is a contact sport. It requires grit. It requires agility, mental agility, but also the ability to connect people and bring people together rather than divide people. So I share my thoughts on my commitment to this dialogue and its role in the big picture of leadership. Today we'll be sharing one of the significant conversations we had during that event. Today, let's take you into the room for this powerful conversation.
Welcome back to The Thermostat with Jason Barger. If you're currently on a commute, a walk, or just a micro break in your day, glad you're making time to step back, to think, and to reflect on the next steps on your journey. I've never been more convinced the best leaders and team cultures in the world are the ones that make time to step back, breathe in good oxygen, and calibrate their thermostat. I hope today's conversation leaves you feeling grounded and inspired. Now let's dive into today's topic to engage our minds and hearts in order to authentically lead and create compelling cultures wherever we are in the world.
Hey everybody, it's Jason, and welcome back to the Thermostat Podcast. Wherever you are and however you're coming to the podcast today, welcome in. So glad you are here. So glad this continues to be a place that you can step back, that you can take a deep breath, hopefully think about the temperature that you're trying to set in your own life and your work. I'm so glad you are here. If you are new to the podcast, welcome in. We're in season 8, well over 210 episodes. So much great stuff out there. Been joined by so many amazing people, voices, and certainly the hope is that the micropods, different topics and themes resonate with you where you are in your own life and work and add value to your journey. So glad you're here. If you're one of the people that have been with us from the very beginning, so glad this continues to add value to your life and your work, your day. And thanks for showing up. Thanks for being a listener. That's why I do this, is hopefully that it makes a difference to the people around you. My promise always from day one of this has been I want to provide something that means something to people, to add value and contribute in a way that, furthers a conversation and helps people and the teams and the cultures that they are passionate about creating. So again, thanks for being here. Before we dive into today's topic, if you will do me a quick favor, if you will rate this podcast 5 stars, that's one of the ways that this podcast gets amplified. Anybody that takes the time just to do that, rate it 5 stars. That's really helpful for the algorithms to find it so other people can find it. If you'll not only rate the podcast, but in your own authentic words, leave a review on whatever platform you're using, that is always helpful too. That helps people then, again, find it more easily. And of course, anybody that takes the time to share this podcast or any of the episodes that resonate with you, share it with your team at work, colleagues, say, hey, here's a topic we ought to talk about. Let's get together. Let's chat. On social media, whatever's authentic for you. If you are willing to do that, that's how this continues to grow and spread, and it's because of people like you that help that happen. So thank you to everybody that does that and takes a moment to do that to support the podcast. On today's podcast, I'm super excited to take you into the room at the Thermostat Cultures live event that I hosted back in November of 2023. This has become an annual event that I host in my hometown of Columbus, Ohio, an in-person VIP event. Really, really cool, intimate gathering of leaders across industries, but also has had a virtual component so people from all over can access and be a part of the powerful dialogue that we have that day. So today is going to be sharing some of the content, some of the great conversations that we had back in November. Today we'll be sharing one of the significant conversations we had during that event. And what you're about to hear is the dialogue I had with my good friends, Kevin Clayton, Senior Vice President and Head of Social Impact and Equity for the Cleveland Cavaliers, Ken Boyer, EY's Inclusiveness Recruiting Leader for the Americas, author and speaker Chris Singleton, amazing human, and you may even hear researcher Tamara Miles chime in. So amazing people joined me for this conversation, and this is a powerful dialogue about the state of leading in the world today. And it's acknowledging that leading in the world today is a contact sport. And you know, you'll hear that phrase come out. But what we mean by that is that it requires grit. It requires agility, mental agility. It certainly requires passion and conviction toward a mission, but also the ability to connect people and bring people together rather than divide people. So seeing initiatives like DE&I as not just an add-on to leadership, but a significant piece of business strategy and just who we need to show up as leaders. So I share my thoughts on my commitment to this dialogue and its role in the big picture of leadership. And, you know, there are all kinds of powerful nuggets within this beautiful conversation that you're going to hear. So I'm so excited to share it with you. So thank you for listening. And if you're interested in the Thermostat Cultures live event in 2024, targeted for Friday, November 8th, then I encourage you to visit thermostatcultureslive.com throughout the year and block time on that Friday to be a part of this great event. More information throughout the year will be coming out about that event. But for now, let's take you into the room for this powerful conversation.
Certainly been a lot of work, and hopefully where we're going to start is there some progress that we see in the way that organizations are approaching maybe broadening the way we think about leadership and the cultures that we're trying to create. So what a progress that we're seeing. And then we also know that work also has come under a little bit of fire, or a little bit of, you know, now pushing it to the side or saying we've covered that. Mm-hmm. How do we help continue to make sure that we keep it as a part of a conversation around how we lead in the kind of cultures that we're trying to create? So, long way of asking the question. What progress are we seeing in this area of creating leaders and cultures in this way?
I think we should let the OG go first.
Yeah, hit us, bro.
Great to be with you again. Ken Boyer with EY. So we're about a $50 billion firm, 300,000 plus people around the world. Great to be back. Always a great job. Always appreciate being here with you. I think on the progress, I think there is ongoing progress for sure, you know, in all facets of diversity. And I think, you know, as an organization, we define diversity pretty broadly. So I think there's so many dimensions of diversity. And I think for all of you here, if your organization or company is focused on that, the question I'd have is, how are you defining diversity within your organization? So I think progress on that standpoint. The other progress I'm seeing and working with a lot of our clients is there have been resources committed to this effort. And I think that shows a lot. So I think from that standpoint, even in challenging times, there's still resources. So I can only speak to the EY side that, you know, the economy is a bit challenged right now for many organizations, but yet our commitment from a DEI perspective is certainly unwavering. But I like the investments, the commitments. You know, we're seeing it showing up in the boardrooms, having a lot of discussions there, whether it's the audit committee or corporate governance, this conversation of diversity and having a diverse workforce and all that is language that's spoken by a lot of people. This is key, not just by the DEI practitioner. And so I think it's a language that's being spoken by many. To me, that's progress, Kevin. And there's a lot more I can go into, but I'll keep it brief.
So it's the only room I have spoken in the last decade where I was not referenced as the OG. So
thanks, Kev. I appreciate it, Kev. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate that.
So unfortunately, I'm going to offer the other side of the coin. Everything that Ken said, absolutely correct. However, there is an assault on this work there's an assault on the term DEI. And the assault actually started shortly after George Floyd was murdered. Where we think there was a peak, there was a peak. There were $50 billion that were pledged to, and everybody had a statement, everybody pledged. There were DE&I officers that were created. If you were a person of color or a woman, that was the criteria that you needed to get a DE&I job, generally speaking, which is the only job I know of in America where your skin color and gender is actually the currency that allows you to be qualified. And I'm telling you, it is absolutely wrong. The industry has done a injustice against the work that should have been a business strategy like EY has in place, like the Cavs have in place, instead of just a social program. So if you think about what has happened with the Supreme Court decision, and that was specifically for focusing on using race as an admission criteria. However, in 13 states where the attorney generals there all combined and said, we will sue any privately owned company that also uses race as part of their criteria. Had nothing to do with the Supreme Court decision. With the NBA, we have a heat map where all our teams are located. There are 17 different states that have legislation of some sort saying that you cannot use the term DEI, you cannot have DEI training, you cannot have DEI individuals names in their title. So on one hand, I see the progress, but on the other hand, I see the assault on the work, which baffles me because if you really understand what the work was about, it was formed as a business strategy for organizations to actually move forward by creating a culture of inclusion.
Agreed. Can I just add on? Kev, you're exactly right. There's an attack. That's just what it is. And for public universities in those states, they're very focused on those schools. So this anti-DEI legislation, I'm spending a lot of time with university presidents and deans around the country. I was out in Tennessee yesterday talking about how might they still engage in the DEI work they want to do, but balancing and managing the risk of the organization or the school in this case. So it's a tightrope that we're walking, and so much has to do, in my opinion, lack of awareness about what the work is about. And so I think more we can speak about how this impacts all of us. By the way, you're diverse and you're right too, right? You need to be part of the conversation. But let's be clear, there's clearly an attack on this work. And so all of us are trying to navigate and work through this really challenging time. I'll just say what it is. So,
I was just saying, the last comment on that is Ohio was one of the states where it did reach the Senate here, and they did not pass the legislation that said that you cannot have DEI in the school system for a publicly funded institution. But it got close. It passed the House here in Ohio.
29 bills across the country got voted down ultimately. So every day it's something different in the state. And every state, the way they're putting up legislation will vary. Florida is really stringent. I can share some stuff about Florida, Texas, and other places. But
so what would you say? Because again, where my mind goes is what advice at this stage in the game, when you're looking at leaders, when you're looking at teams, when you're looking at cultures, that we're trying to move the needle in progressing, again, cultural fit, meaning we bring in people that add something and help us be better at what we do. What would you say? I'm not even going to put the title of it on it, but what would your advice be to leaders that are approaching cultures in this way?
But before we dive into that topic, let's take a break. Let's pause for a second, and we'll be right back. Many teams and organizations right now are realizing that they need to do both. They need to engage the minds and hearts of their people in person, where everyone in the room can experience the energy of congregating together and find clarity for the road ahead. And they also need to continue to find ways to engage the minds and hearts of their people virtually, with those who are working remotely or at a distance. So, if you are in the process of planning your next team meeting, company all-hands event, conference, or culture summit, and are looking for support with a powerful keynote speech, facilitated team conversations that are the currency for change, or deeper development on leadership mindset and an intentional strategy for the culture you're trying to create, I hope you'll contact us at jasonvbarger.com, jasonvbarger.com. It is my privilege and our honor to partner with great people to provide support in these areas. We want to breathe oxygen into your leaders and throughout your organization so you can set the temperature you want for your culture. We look forward to connecting with you soon. I hope you'll contact us at jasonvbarger.com, jasonvbarger.com.
It is my privilege and our honor to partner with great people to provide support in these areas. We want to breathe oxygen into your leaders and throughout your organization so you can set the temperature you want for your culture. We look forward to connecting with you soon.
So I'd offer a handful of things, one of which is this work needs to be operationalized just like anything else that you do in your organizations. It's not DEI over here and the rest of your business over here. They're integrated. Secondly, which Ken alluded to, this is about every single person in this room. All of us bring a dimension of diversity that has added value to the success of business. When you focus on one group or the other, just solely on those groups, that then becomes a focus that is really more HR driven, not necessarily business driven. And I'm not saying that we don't want everybody at the table, but we start where we are and then we build out. And what is the rationale for even doing the work? It can't be because we feel bad that, oh, a black person was killed. That can't be the motivation. That can be kind of the inspiration, but that can't be the motivation. So connecting the dots to the work and why, and answering the why question to me will help everybody in the organization get what this work is about.
Okay, I love that. So just from my perspective, so I grew up in a firm in the audit practice. I spent years in our consulting practice, and now I have a DEI role. I know how to engage this work exactly to the bottom line of our firm and our business. And a little humble brag, I think that's what makes me effective at the work I'm doing. Let me offer a different perspective. You used that word fit a couple of times. I would also say, though, when we're looking to hire people into the firm, I don't necessarily want to have you fit into the organization. I actually want to hire Kevin or Chris for who they are and what they bring, and that may be very different from a fit. So, in fact, I want to encourage us to get away from that word. That word can get you in trouble. If you could say, we're not hiring Jason because he's not a good fit in the firm, that's a problem.
Well, I think part of hopefully I said this well enough, but I think part of the opportunity is developing what we mean by fit. And that fit isn't just that there's one fit, and fit is that you are exactly like me, and I am exactly like you. So in all the dialogue and all the articles that you'll read about the importance of hiring for cultural fit, I think the opportunity is to expand the way that we define what we mean by fit. And part of fit is there's something that we need a part of this culture that we don't have. And this will help us be stronger and better because of that. And so the fit isn't just you are me and I am you.
Right.
It's we fit together better because we are more diverse and we bring something to it. And then moving it beyond just that initial is where I was trying to go with it is not just the initial like, oh, we're in relationship because we hopefully contribute something different to one another. But then we have to work on the fitness of our relationship.
Yeah.
And that you and I are going to grow and or our team and organization as we not only expand that definition of fit, but then we work on what is that fitness of the way this ecosystem works.
Yeah, I love
does that make sense?
No, that does. And you talked a lot about belonging. That's something we're very focused on. And that's a tough thing as you think about, a firm like ours with hundreds of thousands of people, looking at Tyler or Lindsay from the firm here, this notion of belonging, and Tamara, you covered some of the belonging piece, that's what we're focused on, but not an easy thing. I'll just quickly tell you, when I first started with the firm, as a first generation college student into an audit practice in New York, where I'm from, of EY, it was hard. And frankly, I questioned my ability to make it because I'm like, I don't think I even fit in here just because I'm incredibly different from most of the 130 people I'd started with me. And it was a challenge a couple of years because of that. I almost left the firm because when you feel like you don't fit in a place, you question, can I be successful here? Can I make it? And so as you think about people in your organizations around this notion of belonging, how do you make them feel included? But also, how do you give them the ability to bring their frame of reference and different perspectives to the discussion and to the firm or the organization? And that's where I think a lot of organizations go wrong. They hire diversity, but once you come to the organization, it's like, yeah, but we do things this way. I appreciate that you have this background, but this is how we walk from here to there, straight line. Don't come to me with this curvy stuff. I don't want to hear about that. but you actually hired them to create a different pathway, perhaps, to get to point B. And how are you encouraging that as you're onboarding new hires and showing them that you're really open to different perspectives, which will ultimately, hopefully drive a better bottom line, more revenue growth, whatever you need to do.
Tamara, I want to look to you for a second of maybe how this term belonging and how this conversation fits into this community and belonging and bringing people in this kind of unity that Chris was even talking about earlier. What would be your response to that?
So first, great to see Kevin and Ken again. And Chris, so nice to meet you. Fun fact, I'm from Brazil originally, so wow. I was born and raised there, so I have something in common with your wife. So belonging is so important, right? The diversity, equity, inclusion work really, I think, aims at fostering belonging, because if you don't feel like you belong, you don't feel safe sharing your diverse opinion. So then the diversity work, right, with the goal of getting more diverse voices and increasing diversity doesn't work if you don't create belonging. And also when we have belonging uncertainty, when we're anxious whether or not we belong, we're in a state of vigilance, constantly in the state of vigilance. And so we're anxious and we can't access our creative ideas and our contributions. And so belonging is critical. And, one of the easiest ways to create belonging is to acknowledge people. There's research that shows a causal link between being appreciated and the increase in belonging between peers. So peer-to-peer appreciation. So just taking the time to say, hey, thank you for offering those ideas, or for helping me with this, or for whatever. So meaningful recognition can drive belonging. But I agree with everything that they said. Belonging is critical, and it's critical, I think, especially in this moment where we are right now, with the crisis of loneliness that we talked about, with people turning to our workplaces. There's a crisis of trust, right? People don't trust a lot of the institutions, and surprisingly, people trust their workplaces and organizations now more than other institutions. And so if we're looking for work to provide that sense of connection, belonging, trust, then it's up to us leaders and us individuals to help create that.
That's great.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast, and I hope the messages and questions stimulate positive change along your path. As always, if these messages resonate with you and add value to your life, I hope you'll help amplify them throughout the world. Please rate, comment, and share on whatever podcast or social media platform you're using, and share this podcast with the people in your life or work who should be part of these conversations. That way, this spirit does, in fact, spread. If these messages or developing leaders and culture would be helpful to you and your organization, please contact us at jasonvbarger.com, jasonvbarger.com. And remember, we are all ambassadors for the culture we want to create in our life and work. We have to own the vision we want to be a part of. The future of leadership is you, is me, is us. Be a thermostat.